All right, so our topic for this week, and will also carry into next week, are going to be viruses. All right, this week I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the general characteristics of viruses. The videos next week will discuss some specific viruses and how they interact with the host. So next week we'll cover things like HPV, HIV, and a little bit with the Zika virus too. All right. In terms of viruses, one of the things with viruses that is really important, okay, viruses are not living. They're not considered alive, all right? They've got some components that are associated with cells. They have either DNA or RNA, they've got protein, some of them even have cell membranes. But in terms of viruses, one of the key things that with viruses, what makes them not living is that they don't have a metabolism, all right? They have no energy source, so they don't make energy, they don't make ATP, and in terms of that, they also don't take in any nutrients. And because those viruses don't have a metabolism, that's going to be the biggest reason why they're not classified as living. All right? So in terms of viruses, all right, they're not living, they don't have a metabolism, they also don't exhibit growth, and they don't respond to the environment. So like with a sunflower that will kind of move to follow the sun, that's a response to the environment. Viruses don't have that. They're just sitting out there in the environment waiting for a host to pick them up. Okay, so the main things that are associated with viruses not being living, they don't have a metabolism, they don't have energy, they don't grow, they don't respond to the environment. Okay, the other thing that is going to be important with viruses that I want you to take away, oops, viruses are not a type of bacteria, because in terms of the class so far, we've focused mostly on bacteria and functions of bacteria. Viruses are not bacteria, all right? Where that becomes important are viruses don't respond to antibiotics, all right? And that's one of the key things as future healthcare professionals that I want you to take away. You cannot treat a viral infection with antibiotics. Antibiotics only impact bacterial growth. They don't impact viral replication, all right? There are some treatments that are available for viruses, primarily with viruses. One of the main treatments that can be used are antivirals, all right? And we'll talk a little bit more about antivirals kind of next week. And I'll talk about it a little bit when I get to how viruses replicate within a host cell. Because essentially what those antivirals do, they interfere with steps of that replication process, all right? So in terms of viruses, treatment option there is going to be antivirals. Antibiotics are not used with viruses, all right? So in terms of viruses, they are typically referred to as infectious particles, all right? They're not alive, they're not dead, they're infectious. They can be active or not active, all right? Not active meaning it's not replicating within a host. Active would mean it's replicating within a host. But these are infectious particles. They're not considered living, all right? So in terms of viruses, those are a couple of the key points that I want you to take away. The other thing with viruses that are kind of unique is they exhibit what's known as tropism, all right? And tropism really gets to specificity. Because in terms of those viruses, there are going to be some viral particles that can infect certain cells but not other cells. The HIV virus, for example, is going to infect immune cells. Specifically, macrophages and T cells are primarily what HIV is going to target. But they can't infect, say, a liver cell, a kidney cell, or say a neuron, all right? So in terms of that, that's an example of tropism. There's a specificity as far as where the virus can attach to, all right? And really that tropism, what tropism gets to primarily is whether or not that virus can attach to a particular cell, to a particular tissue, or to a particular host, okay? So we can go down to the cellular level like with HIV. We can go all the way up to the organismal level with animals. There are some viruses that will infect dogs that won't infect humans, okay? So if your dog ends up with parvovirus, at least certain types of parvovirus, that parvovirus is not contagious to you. It's contagious to other dogs, which is why it tends to devastate shelters or vets, because it is highly contagious among dogs. But that parvovirus isn't going to be able to enter our cells because it doesn't have the right interaction, okay? So in terms of that, you're looking at specificity there. And in terms of that tropism, really what you're talking about, and this is going to be a very rough sketch. If we call this our cell, we'll make our virus pink. All right? That virus has to match up with the receptor on the outside of the cell, okay? If we have another cell over here, all right, that has a different receptor, our virus can't interact with that particular cell, all right? That's what is happening essentially with HIV. If this is our immune cell, that virus can enter that cell. If this is, say, our liver, that HIV virus is not going to be able to enter the liver cell, all right? So tropism is something that's associated with viruses. It gets to the specificity of that virus being able to enter a particular cell or a particular tissue, all right? Hopefully that makes sense. If you have any questions, let